No, we usually picture smoking as this very modern vice, right? Like mid-century ads and cigarette breaks. But the real story? It's so much bigger, and honestly, it's deeply rooted in the bizarre biology of our species.
So it's a simple question. When did humans actually start smoking? Well, the answer goes back way further than colonial trade routes or the modern tobacco industry. It predates agriculture. Literally, it predates civilization entirely. I want you to really zoom out for a second and imagine standing around a prehistoric campfire. It's, say, 50,000 BC. There's no Netflix, no phones, absolutely zero existential dread about your email inbox. There is just you, the flames, and this unavoidable, thick, choking smoke curling directly into your face. This was basically humanity's original air quality situation. And yeah, there was no app to check it. Every single day, our ancestors sat near those fires and just breathed in whatever happened to be burning.
Section 1. The first accidental inhale. How early humans stumbled into psychoactive smoke.
So the crucial point here is that smoking likely didn't start with some grand, deliberate plan. It actually began as a completely accidental byproduct of just trying to stay warm. Consider this staggering number. 1 million years ago. That is the oldest confirmed evidence of controlled fire use from a place called Wonderwork Cave in South Africa. And get this, it wasn't even Homo sapiens tending those flames. It was our earlier, smaller-brained cousins, Homo erectus. For hundreds of thousands of years, they just huddled around these contained fires in the dark, breathing in the smoke of whatever organic matter was burning at the time. Now, here's what's really fascinating. When you burn organic matter, you don't just get carbon dioxide and water vapor. You get this wild biological chain reaction. We're talking a whole cocktail of psychoactive chemicals, alkaloids, and terpenes being released into the air. And bizarrely enough, our brains already had an endocannabinoid system built right in, just waiting to react. It's the system that regulates mood, memory, and appetite. So when early humans accidentally burned wild psychoactive plants, their brains weren't confused by it. They just reacted. That first totally accidental hit around the campfire was basically the brain saying, "Oh, hello there, I've been waiting for you." Section 2. Unearthing the ancient evidence, tracing the physical proof through deep time. Now, as we look for the physical proof, we run into a major hurdle. Organic material, things like leaves and wood, almost never survives thousands of years in the dirt. It just rots. So we jump from the first contained fires a million years ago, all the way to a 12,000-year-old hearth in Utah that actually contained deliberate tobacco seeds. Then we skip forward again to Egyptian medical texts in 1550 BC, and finally to ritual cannabis burials in the Pamir Mountains around 500 BC. This brilliantly illustrates the massive gaps in our archaeological record. The sheer absence of evidence in between doesn't mean early humans weren't smoking. It just means their wooden pipes and leather pouches completely dissolved back into the earth way before we could ever hope to find them. And that brings us to this truly fantastic quote from the ancient Greek historian Herodotus, right around the 5th century BC. He described the Scythians, who were this nomadic people from the Eurasian steppe, setting up enclosed tents, throwing hemp seeds onto hot stones, and basically inhaling the smoke. He literally wrote that they were howling with pleasure. Now, for centuries, historians assumed this had to be some wild exaggeration. But modern archaeology, it completely backed him up. Excavators digging up Scythian burial mounds found the exact bronze braziers, the heated stones, and even the residue of hemp with unusually high THC content. Herodotus wasn't embellishing at all. He was just reporting exactly what he saw, which is absolutely incredible. Section 3. The intoxication hypothesis. Is getting high a biological imperative? So we've established that the behavior is incredibly old. But what if the human desire to seek out altered mental states is practically hardwired into our biology? Well, proposed back in the 1980s by a psychopharmacologist named Ronald Siegel, there's this idea called the intoxication hypothesis. It essentially identifies the pursuit of intoxication as a fundamental fourth drive in animal biology, sitting right alongside hunger, thirst, and sex. This concept completely shifts our paradigm. It suggests that early humans deliberately sought out psychoactive smoke and actively experimented with different plants because altering consciousness is actually a deeply embedded universal biological drive. And here's the kicker. It's not just humans. We see this in animals too. For example, Siberian reindeer will deliberately eat psychoactive mushrooms. The active compounds pass through their systems completely intact, which leads other reindeer to literally drink their urine to get the exact same effects. This drug recycling is an absolutely absurd, high-stakes example of the lengths animals will go to just to alter their consciousness. It really makes you realize that early human trial and error around the campfire was just a small part of a much larger, wilder natural phenomenon. Section 4. Medicine and Social Survival. Smoke as a tool for healing and bonding. Long before smoking was seen as just a casual recreational habit, it served some incredibly important medical and social functions. While it might sound wildly counterintuitive to us today, delivering pharmacologically active herbs directly to the lungs via smoke was actually a highly sophisticated and logical medical practice across the ancient world. The ancient Egyptians used henbane smoke for lung conditions, as noted in the Ebers Papyrus. Hippocrates prescribed herbal fumigation in ancient Greece, and ancient Ayurvedic texts in India outlined dhumapana, which basically translates to smoke drinking, using precise medicinal herbs. You have to remember, in a world without modern antibiotics or pharmacies, delivering medicine directly to the lungs via smoke worked enough times that it became a highly refined global protocol. But beyond just medicine, it was a critical piece of social infrastructure. Sitting in a closed space, breathing in smoke, and collectively entering an altered state literally synchronizes neural activity. This built the deep, essential trust and group identity required for early humans to just survive in a really dangerous world. That ritual smoke circle, it wasn't just a party. It was vital social technology, a literal survival mechanism. Section 5. The Fall from Sacred. The disastrous shift to a casual, toxic habit. Now we arrive at the more uncomfortable part of the explainer, the tragic transition of tobacco from a deeply sacred indigenous practice into a mass-market disaster. Tobacco is native to the Americas, and for thousands of years, it was treated with profound respect. It was used in healing ceremonies, for binding agreements between tribes, and as a living messenger to communicate with the spirit world. It was administered with strict discipline by shamans. It was never, ever an everyday casual habit you just did while waiting for the bus. When something is truly sacred, you treat it with reverence. You definitely don't chain smoke it. We see a really stark historical contrast here on this slide. For centuries, you had shamans facilitating a sacred, culturally integrated connection with the plant. But with the European industrialization of tobacco, it was totally transformed into an extractive, mass-market consumer product. The plant was stripped of all its cultural safeguards, with chemicals actively engineered into it to create a fast-acting, highly addictive, and physically destructive commodity. It's honestly one of the largest moral chasms in human history. So let's take a step back and look at this massive number for a second. 100,000 years. Despite all of our modern technology, the internet, the endless stream of content we consume every day, there are these thin, unbroken threads of continuity. Things like fire, smoke, and breath. They run right through hundreds of thousands of years of human experience, connecting us directly to those ancestors sitting in the dark. So, I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. The very next time you flip a light switch or sit around a summer fire and catch a whiff of that wood smoke on a cold night, realize that you are participating in a story far, far older than civilization itself. You're doing what humans have always done. You're breathing.